Welcome to Biography with Plutarch, where we delve into the lives of extraordinary individuals who have shaped the course of human history. Today, we embark on a fascinating journey through the life of Martin Luther King Jr., a champion of civil rights and a powerful symbol of nonviolent resistance. Born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia, Martin Luther King Jr. entered a world where racial segregation and discrimination were entrenched in the fabric of American society. His birthplace, a modest home on Auburn Avenue, was nestled in the heart of the city's African-American community, where the rhythms of gospel music, the fervor of Baptist preaching, and the struggles of everyday life would later become the cadence of his own message. The sweet scent of magnolias and the sound of children playing in the streets filled the air, as Martin's family welcomed him into a world that was both vibrant and tumultuous. Martin's parents, Michael King Sr. and Alberta Williams King, were pillars of their community, with his father serving as the pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church, a position that would eventually be passed down to his son. The church, with its stunning stained glass windows and majestic organ, was more than just a place of worship. It was a hub of community activity, where people gathered to share stories, find comfort, and seek guidance. Michael King Sr., a strong and compassionate leader, instilled in Martin the importance of faith, family, and social responsibility. Alberta, with her warm smile and nurturing spirit, taught Martin about the value of empathy, kindness, and compassion. As a child, Martin was surrounded by the love and support of his family, which included his older sister Christine and his younger brother Alfred Daniel. The King household was a place of lively discussion and debate, where issues of faith, morality, and social justice were regularly explored. Meal times were often filled with laughter and conversation, as Martin's parents encouraged their children to share their thoughts and opinions. These early experiences would later shape Martin's ability to articulate his vision and inspire others to join him in the fight for equality. Growing up in Atlanta during the 1930s and 1940s, Martin was exposed to the harsh realities of racial segregation. He witnessed firsthand the injustices faced by African Americans, from the separate water fountains and restrooms to the restricted access to education and employment opportunities. The city's Jim Crow laws, which mandated segregation in public facilities, transportation, and accommodations, were a constant reminder of the deep-seated racism that pervaded American society. These early experiences would later inform Martin's commitment to challenging the status quo and fighting for equal rights. The influential figures in his life, including his father and other community leaders, helped shape his understanding of the world and his place within it. Martin's parents encouraged him to explore his curiosity and develop his intellect, providing him with access to books, educational resources, and cultural events. The family's home was filled with the works of African-American authors such as W.E.B. Du Bois and Langston Hughes, which helped shape Martin's understanding of the Black experience in America. Martin's educational journey began at the Young Street Elementary School, where he excelled academically and demonstrated a keen interest in public speaking. He later attended Booker T. Washington High School, one of the few institutions in Atlanta that offered African-American students a comprehensive education. It was during these formative years that Martin developed his passion for learning, his love of literature, and his appreciation for the power of language. His teachers, many of whom were dedicated to fostering a sense of pride and self-worth in their students, played a significant role in shaping Martin's intellectual curiosity and academic achievements. The historical context of Martin's early life was marked by significant events that would shape his future path. The Great Depression had left deep scars on the African-American community, exacerbating poverty, unemployment, and social unrest. The rise of the civil rights movement, led by figures such as A. Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin, was gaining momentum, with activists employing nonviolent resistance and mass protests to challenge segregation. As Martin navigated his teenage years, he began to grasp the magnitude of these issues, sensing that his own destiny was inextricably linked to the struggle for racial equality. One pivotal moment that would shape Martin's perspective on social justice occurred when he was just 14 years old. While traveling with his father to a conference in Baltimore, Martin was forced to give up his seat on a bus to a white person, an experience that left him feeling humiliated and angry. This incident, though seemingly insignificant at the time, would later become a catalyst for Martin's commitment to challenging segregation and fighting for equal rights. As we explore the early life of Martin Luther King Jr., we find a young man deeply rooted in his community, shaped by the love and values of his family, and influenced by the tumultuous events of his time. The foundations of his character, forged in the crucible of his childhood and adolescence, would eventually give rise to a powerful leader who would change the course of American history. The experiences, relationships, and lessons of his early years would inform his vision, guide his actions, and inspire his message as he embarked on a journey that would take him from the streets of Atlanta to the forefront of a nation's conscience. As Martin Luther King Jr. entered adulthood, his commitment to social justice only deepened, like a river flowing inexorably towards its destination. In 1948, he began attending Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania, an institution that would prove to be a crucible for his developing leadership. It was there that he was exposed to a diverse range of theological perspectives, from the liberal theology of Reinhold Niebuhr to the social gospel of Walter Rauschenbusch. As he delved into these different traditions, King began to develop his own unique voice as a leader, one that would blend the prophetic passion of the Hebrew prophets with the compassionate empathy of Jesus. It was during this period that he became increasingly fascinated with the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, whose philosophy of nonviolent resistance would later become a cornerstone of King's own approach to activism. King was particularly drawn to Gandhi's concept of satyagraha, or truth force, which emphasized the power of nonviolent resistance to challenge unjust systems and bring about social change. As he studied Gandhi's methods, King began to see the potential for nonviolent resistance to be applied in the context of the American Civil Rights Movement. In 1951, King moved to Boston University, where he earned his doctoral degree in systematic theology. His time in Boston proved to be a pivotal moment in his development as a thinker and a leader, as he was surrounded by a community of scholars and activists who shared his passion for social justice. The city itself was a hub of intellectual and cultural activity, with its vibrant neighborhoods, such as the North End and Roxbury, offering a glimpse into the complexities of urban life. It was during this period that he met Coretta Scott, a young musician who would later become his wife and closest confidant. Their relationship was built on a deep emotional connection, as well as a shared commitment to social justice, and would provide a source of strength and inspiration for King throughout his career. The year 1955 marked a major turning point in King's career, as he became involved in the Montgomery bus boycott. The boycott, which was sparked by Rosa Parks' courageous refusal to give up her seat on a bus to a white person, lasted for 381 days and ended with the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional. King's leadership during this period, which included his famous speech at the Holt Street Baptist Church, helped to establish him as a major figure in the civil rights movement. As the movement gained momentum, King became increasingly involved in high-profile campaigns and demonstrations. In 1963, he played a key role in the Birmingham campaign, which aimed to desegregate public facilities and challenge the city's segregationist laws. The campaign was marked by violent clashes between protesters and police, with images of fire hoses and police dogs being used against unarmed demonstrators shocking the nation. Yet, despite the violence, King remained steadfast in his commitment to nonviolent resistance, recognizing that it was the only way to bring about lasting change. As he wrote in his famous letter from Birmingham jail, "Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue." One of the most iconic moments of King's career came on August 28, 1963, when he delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. The speech, which was attended by hundreds of thousands of people, called for an end to racism and segregation, and envisioned a future where African Americans would be treated with dignity and respect. As King declared, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." This speech was a masterful blend of poetry and prophecy, with King's voice soaring like a bird set free. The following year, King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his nonviolent resistance to racial inequality. The prize, which was awarded on December 10, 1964, recognized King's tireless efforts to promote peace and justice and helped to cement his reputation as a global leader. Throughout the mid-1960s, King continued to push for major reforms, including the passage of the Voting Rights Act and the Fair Housing Act. He also became increasingly vocal about issues such as poverty and war, recognizing that the struggle for civil rights was inextricably linked to broader social and economic justice movements. As he spoke out against the Vietnam War, King argued that the conflict was a distraction from the pressing domestic issues facing America, saying, "A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death." His critiques of American society were not limited to foreign policy, as he also spoke out against the systemic inequalities that perpetuated poverty and racism. In 1966, King moved to Chicago, where he launched a campaign to address the city's deep-seated issues of housing segregation and economic inequality. The campaign was marked by fierce resistance from local politicians and business leaders who saw King's efforts as a threat to their power and privilege. Yet, despite the challenges, King remained committed to nonviolent resistance, recognizing that it was the only way to bring about lasting change. As the years went by, Martin Luther King Jr.'s message of nonviolent resistance continued to resonate with people from all walks of life, echoing through the streets of America like a gentle breeze that gradually gained momentum. In 1967, he published his book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community?, in which he laid out a vision for a more equitable society and called for a radical transformation of American values. The following year, King launched the Poor People's Campaign, a nationwide effort to address issues of poverty and economic inequality. He traveled to cities and towns, meeting with community leaders, listening to their stories, and amplifying their voices. The campaign was not just about providing temporary relief, but about challenging the systemic injustices that had perpetuated poverty for generations. King's leadership in this movement was characterized by his unwavering commitment to the marginalized and his unshakable faith in the power of collective action. As King became increasingly vocal about his opposition to the Vietnam War, he recognized that it was a symptom of a larger disease, a disease of militarism and imperialism that threatened the very foundations of democracy. He saw the war as a manifestation of a nation's misguided priorities, where the pursuit of power and wealth took precedence over the welfare of its citizens. King's critique of the war was not just about foreign policy, but also about the moral fabric of American society. He believed that a nation that could justify the bombing of villages and the killing of innocent civilians abroad could not genuinely claim to be a beacon of freedom and justice at home. In the spring of 1968, King traveled to Memphis, Tennessee, to support a strike by African American sanitation workers who were fighting for better wages and working conditions. The city was a powder keg of racial tensions, with memories of the civil rights movement still fresh in people's minds. As King walked through the streets, he was met with a mix of admiration and hostility, a reflection of the complex emotions that his presence evoked. On April 3rd, he delivered a speech at the Mason Temple, his voice booming through the crowded hall as he said, "Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will." The words were laced with a sense of urgency and mortality, as if King knew that his time was running out. The next day, while standing on the balcony of his hotel, King was assassinated by a single bullet fired from a rifle. The shot echoed through the night air, sending shockwaves across the nation. The news of King's death sparked widespread riots and protests, as people vented their anger and frustration at a system that seemed designed to silence dissenting voices. The outpouring of grief was not just about mourning the loss of a leader, but also about confronting the darker aspects of American society. Despite his untimely passing, Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy has only continued to grow in stature. He is remembered today as a champion of human rights, a tireless advocate for justice and equality, and a powerful symbol of the transformative power of nonviolent resistance. His message of love and compassion continues to inspire people around the world, from the civil rights movement in the United States to anti-apartheid activists in South Africa, and from feminist leaders in India to environmentalists in Brazil. King's legacy is not just about what he achieved, but also about the possibilities he opened up for others. He was a man of extraordinary courage and conviction, who was willing to challenge the status quo and confront the powers that be in pursuit of a higher truth. His commitment to nonviolent resistance has inspired generations of activists and leaders, from Mahatma Gandhi to Nelson Mandela, and from Malcolm X to Angela Davis. King's influence can be seen in the struggles for justice and equality that continue to unfold around the world, as people seek to create a more just and compassionate society. As he said in his final sermon, "I've seen the promised land, I may not get there with you. The journey is long and winding, with many obstacles and setbacks along the way." But with King's legacy as our North Star, we remain committed to the pursuit of a better future, one that is worthy of our highest aspirations. That's all for today's Biography with Plutarch. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that understanding the lives of remarkable individuals helps us better understand ourselves.